G'day fellas, and welcome to Outback Arms. Now, as you may have read in the title, this video is a 2000 round review of the Taipan Lite and my experiences with it. But first, a disclaimer. I'm not sponsored at all in any of my videos. Everything you see has been paid for by me. So what you see are all my own experiences, having no bias towards Southern Cross small arms at all. So where to begin? Well, so far the Taipan Lite has been a love-hate relationship, going towards more of the side of hate. I'll start off with the negatives, and oh boy is there a lot, and then I'll talk about what I liked about the Taipan when it actually functioned. I purchased my Taipan Lite not too soon after its initial release, and I ended up getting a rifle with a very low serial number, about low 500s. So first off, as soon as I got the rifle, things weren't looking too promising. Little things like the fore-end bolt being bent and the stock having lots of play in it told me quality control wasn't the best. Straight away, with just a little bit of use, the Cerakote easily came off from very minor bumps and mainly from cases hitting a receiver when it was injecting. 50 rounds later, I noticed the rifle struggled to feed most types of hollow points or lead-tipped rounds that had somewhat flat surfaces. I also struggled to get the rifle to reliably group. This though turned out to be due to a faulty gun block muzzle brake. I messaged SCSA about these issues and they told me to send it back. After sending the rifle to SCSA, I got it back after a few months, and pretty much nothing had been fixed, even the bolt hadn't been replaced. It turned out that the store that was handling the warranty hadn't correctly written down all the faults with the rifle, and when SCSA received it, they must have been confused and not referred back to the email correspondence I had with them, which detailed what needed to be looked at. So the bolt hadn't been replaced, the rifle still jammed with the short 10 round PMags it was designed to use, and now issues of light primer strikes started to occur. The light primer strikes occurrence changed depending on the type of ammo was used, and could almost completely be stopped by applying lots of forward force on the pump. However, you can see how this would have become old real quick, especially in a hunting situation. I also had purchased the rifle with the SCSA advertised folding stock adapter, and once I had fit it, I found it had lots of sideways movement with the parts not fitting properly at all. So once again, I sent the rifle back to SCSA. So I got the rifle back after the second time it went to SCSA, thinking surely the issues had been resolved. However, sadly I was being optimistic. First, to remedy the loose folding stock adapter, SCSA's solution was to apply a crap load of red Loctite onto the bolt. This, however, became loose quickly. I did manage to fix it to where it was usable by applying even more Loctite and torquing the bolt to 45 inch-pounds. SCSA had managed to reduce the amount of feeding issues by dremeling out the feed rounds, but the feeding issues proceeded to occur when using long 10 round PMags that we have available here in Queensland. These magazines had all worked flawlessly in my Remington 7615, so I knew it clearly wasn't them that was the issue. I actually had managed to fix the feeding issues with these mags by adding material onto the mags in the form of superglue. This made them rock forwards in the mag well, allowing for rounds to actually feed into the chamber properly. The light primer strikes started occurring more often, with 1 in every 10 rounds now not firing. When firing around 20 rounds in quick succession, the rifle would become hard to cycle, to the point it would seize up. Aussie Reviews actually also had the same issue, as seen in his video, although SCSA said that was because he had a special faulty one. Yeah, that's strange, I also had that issue, from a store-bought one. The bolt on the forend still hadn't been changed since being back twice. The Cerakote had worn really badly, but that was the least of my problems, because finally the bolt had broken with a lug shearing off, making the rifle unsafe to fire. So once again, I sent the rifle back. Finally, quite a few months later, I got the gun back, and all the issues had been fixed with SCSA replacing a lot of parts. This in turn meant that most of the footage you see in the video was filmed roughly a year into owning the rifle, as before this I couldn't get a single video without a malfunction. At this point, I could use the rifle with no malfunctions. I actually started to enjoy it, and I found it to be very accurate, reliable at feeding, quick and easy to operate. However, after 6 months in, it finally started to go downhill again. At around 1800 rounds in, I noticed that slight movement in the barrel and thought nothing much of it. Now, I had noticed slight point of impact shifts over the last few months, but I put it down to being the rifle being knocked around from general use. For a few weeks, I was constantly going spotlighting and noticed the accuracy had become so bad that my mate and I were missing a lot of things we would normally be very confident of hitting. After that night, I went inside the rifle in and noticed my point of impact had shifted 10 centimeters up at 100 meters. So I quickly re-sighted in the rifle, thinking I may have just knocked the scope. As I travelled around the property a lot with the rifle, I began to notice the movement in the barrel had become way worse. So I disassembled the rifle to see if the bolt that holds the barrel into the receiver was loose. But guess what? It was torqued correctly to 25 inch-pounds. At this point I noticed the barrel movement was so bad that I tested 100 meters, being able to change the point of impact significantly just by moving the barrel with my fingers. Finally, I talked to SCSA and they wanted me to send the rifle back for a fourth time. To which you can guess I was not pleased. So here we are today, 1 year and 7 months after buying a Taipan Lite, and I can finally make this video. Taking the Taipan Lite back a fourth time, SCSA finally conceded and gave me a replacement rifle in the form of a Taipan X. So far I can say the Taipan X is a lot better rifle, having none of the issues the Lite had. I have to admit I was losing faith with SCSA customer service, but finally they came through with the replacement. So, to the positives of the Taipan Lite when it actually functioned. When the Taipan Lite was working, I found the rifle to be surprisingly very accurate, even though it had a trigger pull of around 7 pounds. Using ADI Blitz King and Fiocchi 55 grain EPN rounds, I was constantly getting 1.5 MOA 5 round groups at 100 meters, with many 3 round groups being sub MOA. The controls are great, with the rifle being very easy to manipulate, taking advantage of the AR style safety, as seen in the hunting footage. The pump action is a game changer when dealing with mobs of pigs, allowing for quick follow-up shots compared to your average Cat B rifle here in Australia. The bolt hold open on the Lite as well, frankly it makes no sense to me. It was marketed to farmers, but as a farmer myself, I cannot think of many fellas that drive around with the bolt open. This feature has a use in the Taipan X though, for cleaning the barrel and upper receiver, so I can't really crap on it too much. The rifle in my opinion looks awesome, and takes advantage of the modern mounting options for accessories like full-length Picatinny rail and M-LOK slots. Although I wish the Lite had more slots instead of the weird teardrop shaped holes. A major advantage I found over other pump action rifles is the stainless steel barrel. I find it really useful not having to apply a thin coat of oil on the barrel after every use, unlike that rust prone 7615 I had. Now when it comes to suitability for Australian conditions, I did find the bull dust after 600 rounds without cleaning could stiffen the action, but of course you should lubricate a little bit more often than that. However, compared to the 7615, it really didn't do as badly, as the system seems to be quite well sealed. Another big factor about this rifle is SCSA's customer service. I dare say it is quite good. Now I know what you're thinking, but mate, didn't you have to send it back multiple times and they still didn't fix it? Well yes, but I'm also pretty sure they were impeded by the place that I bought the rifle from, interfering and making the process harder than it had to be with their really strange policies. So would I recommend the Taipan Lite at new price? No, not at all. Even with all the cheap second-hand ones and new ones still being for sale, I'd not recommend one at all. However, the only time I would say it's even worth thinking about getting one is if you are the sort of fellow who only goes to the range a few times a year. So I'd say yeah, a sub $1,000 Taipan Lite, if you can get it at that price or even lower, isn't a bad deal if you're prepared to deal with the warranty. So what's my thought then on the Taipan X? Well, if this was the rifle I got when it first came out, it would have been a completely different story. I've put a few hundred rounds through the Taipan X with no issues at all, and to be honest, I have found it to be an amazing rifle, being a lot better than my old 7615. Shortly, I will be making a review video just on the Taipan X after I put a few hundred rounds through it, just to make sure none of those pesky issues seen in the Lite arise. But for now, you'll have to wait, so consider subscribing so you don't miss it. Cheers for watching, fellas.